Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dear Daisy, a podcast about secrets. I am Daisy. I'm not telling you my secrets, just in case this is your first time tuning in. You have to pay more money for those. That's not true. I tell all kinds of shit that I shouldn't tell publicly all the time. Like that my emulant, is that right? Smells like buttered popcorn. My stepmom's here, so that's interesting. Hi everyone. We're recording on a Saturday today because tomorrow I fly to Philly to do my second show of Shut the Fuck Up, Nick Lachey Live, and then the next day we'll be in Raleigh for the third show, and then we'll be doing a virtual show for the last chunk, and then I think we're going to do a live watch party for the reunion, is what we were just discussing. So that's a good time. Of course, by the time this comes out, that'll all be nil anyway, because it would all have already happened. But I hope you all have virtual tickets, or, you know, we'll see you in person. The first show was fun, and, you know, life is a funny thing. Before I hit record, I was telling the fine folks here about my weird dream last night. I often have dreams that I'm responsible for a very tiny baby, whether or not it's mine or somebody gives it to me. And sometimes, like, it always turns into something else that isn't a human baby. Like when I was pregnant, kept turning into a baby shrimp, and I would lose it in the water. And then sometimes it turns into a kitten or various other things. But in this dream last night, or the other night, it turned into a snake and then an ice cream cone. Almost like one of those, like drumsticks, you know, that you can get at the gas station. And it was melting, and so I kept trying to, like, you know, like lick it to prevent it from melting, and eventually I just had to eat the baby. I wonder what that's a metaphor for. Sometimes you have to eat your babies. I don't know what that is. Anyway, what else? It's fall. All the leaves are brown, and the sky is gray. I went for a walk on a winter's day. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it was weird. One day, all the leaves were like this gorgeous golden color, and the next thing I turned around and they were gone. Although I was sitting outside and the wind blew, and it sounded like I was having like an actual sound bath. Like all the leaves started to fall, and it sounded almost like it was raining. It was really peaceful and lovely. And I have a little fire pit that my parents gave us, and I was sitting out there the last 2 days with the fire going as I was working, which is nice. And it almost makes living here worth it. If there were 1 or 2 restaurants nearby that we liked, that might make it worth it. All right, I'm going to open a letter, an actual letter. This is beautiful. This is a card with a gorgeous golden retriever on it, and it's beautiful handwriting. Dear Daisy, this is not necessarily a letter to read on Dear Daisy, unless you want to. It's your podcast, so I'll leave that decision in your hands. Well, it's too late. However, I wanted to reach out to you and let you know how much you've helped me. Oh, you read my email on air a few months ago. I'm still not named Grace. It was about feeling lonely. You were so kind and understanding, and I've replayed it a number of times just so I could hear that compassion in your voice. Like the kids today say, I felt seen. Moreover, hearing you be friendly was what I needed at that time. It reminded me that I'm not alone, and it soothed me. It also helped me realize that I may not need a best friend. If you, someone who does not know me, can empathize with my situation, give me advice and words of encouragement based on an email describing my feelings, then maybe I can get those from other people in my life who are not besties. And then I thought, if that's the case, maybe I can get fulfillment from my casual friends as well. Maybe if I let my guard down around the friendly people already in my life, I can enjoy them for who/what they are instead of focusing on my lack of a best friend. I journaled about this and brought these thoughts to my therapist, and I felt a whole new lung capacity thing happen. I was breathing easier. So last month, when a rousing sing-along spontaneously arose on a bus ride home from a wedding, it shined a light onto the potential joy I could find with the people already surrounding me. So in short, there are no updates on my quest to find new friends, but I've come to realize my idea of friendship can evolve. I've grown to love the delicious serving-sized packets of friendship I already have. They're not my besties, not my ride or die, but they are there for me in ways I may have been discounting. Goddess bless therapy, and thank you again for the Church of Daisy. Signed, Grace. I mean, this is a really great reminder that we all, I think, have a tendency to focus on what we don't have, right? Rather than on what's in front of us. You know, you really can miss the journey, you know, if you're anticipating the end. You know, there's that old saying, chop wood, carry water. Like, my dad told me recently a parable that was about somebody who, I can't exactly remember, but like they go to some wise person and they say, you know, can you show me what the meaning of life is? And the wise person says something like, yes, if you go back home, you know, I promise I'll reveal it. And so this man goes back home and like basically lives his whole life, you know, and he marries and he has children and he has, you know, a home, and he gets old and his wife dies and his children die, and he goes back to the wise. I'm probably completely ruining this, but he goes back to the wise person and says, like, you told me you were going to tell me the meaning of life, show me the meaning of life. And he said, you know, I did. Like, that was it, you know? I think we are all sort of in general expecting, like, I don't know. You know, it's like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? Like, if that's not a metaphor for like missing the thing that's right in front of you, I don't know what is, you know? What a capitalistic thing, right? Here's this gorgeous thing in the sky, right? That's right in front of you. And it's like, yeah, but that's not good enough. There's also a pot of gold at the end of it that you're never going to find because there is no end of the rainbow, right? So now you can't even just enjoy this beautiful thing in the sky without thinking like, shit, how do I get the thing that's at the end of it? How do I get the prize out of this thing? You know? And especially now as, you know, everybody's lives are so highly curated and polished on social media, you know, we all are sort of operating under the assumption that everybody else is living some fabulous fucking life. And so we forget or we overlook the things in our own lives that are fabulous because they don't look like what other people's lives look like. You know, I grew up, we didn't go out to eat often because we couldn't afford it. And when we did, it was a treat, you know. We went to this little, like, you know, like dinky little Chinese place in our neighborhood. And it just felt really special because we only did it, I don't know, in my memory, it was like once a month. I could be wrong, but. And now, you know, Monty is fortunate enough, you know, to have parents who are in a better financial position than my parents were. And so, you know, we go out to eat, you know, more often, not that often, but a few times a month maybe. And like for him, it's just a thing that we do, right? So I'll say like, hey, we're going to go out to eat. And he's like, well, what are we going to have? You know, and if it's not what he wants, he's disappointed. And I'm like, wow, for me, it was such a treat. And for him, it's just a thing. And, you know, he doesn't get to sort of see what a treat it is to get to go out to eat, you know, whatever you're having. And the only way to make best friends is to focus on the friendships that you have, you know? Like, you're not going to meet somebody and it's instantly, I mean, yes, occasionally you meet somebody and sort of you're instantly like, oh, right, these are my people, right? But like, mostly you meet people and you sort of circle around each other for a little bit, right? And figure each other out and it just grows from there. Monty has a couple of friends that he met at theater camp when we first moved here. And the moms wanted to get them together the other day. And I was like, oh, I have to leave my house. I have to like put clothes on and look halfway presentable, you know, and I got there and I was grateful for the chance to be around other people and the chance to kind of talk about what's been going on in my mind and to sort of be reminded of the perspective. And I don't consider these women like close friends of mine by any stretch, but I was grateful to be able to have that, that particular conversation. This woman was able to, I don't know, talk about things in a way that I'd forgotten to look at. You know what I mean? Like reminding me that, when you make cookies, you're waging peace, that not everything has to be a massive, big, huge thing. As some of you know, I'm struggling a lot right now with the election, and people keep asking me, because I think people assume, they know who I'm voting for, and people keep asking me, like, how is it so close? And I'm like, it's so close because people are angry and disillusioned and desperate. And this is how dictatorships are born. They're born out of people being angry and desperate and thinking that like only this really extreme thing is going to fix it. And I think it's true that like at this point, only an extreme thing is going to fix it, but it's not in the package of Donald Trump. I don't know. I'm going off topic here, but last night we were watching something and there was this ad with these incredible photographs, one after the other, of like people in conflict, whether it was like protesters screaming at cops or like there was one of like a white woman like screaming at someone on a bus. It was people in like serious distress and anger. And it turned out to be an ad for Jesus, which is really strange. Like, I didn't know he needed commercials, but it said like, Jesus loves the people you hate. And normally I really, really bristle at those kinds of messages, but I was like, and Kurt and Monty did the like, what? And I was like, well, but actually that's a necessary reminder, whether or not you believe in Jesus. And Jesus was not all about love. But the point is, like, we're all humans, and we've lost sight of that. And we're screaming at each other. And sometimes I like to picture those people as like tiny little babies, in someone's arms, just innocent and full of potential. And then like something happened, or some things happened. Anyway, my point is, you just don't know what life is going to give you. I mean, that really is one day at a time. Chop wood and carry water and focus on that, Focus on the people that are in your life. Focus on the friends that you have, not on the ones that you wish you had, because that's the only way you're going to make better friendships, Thank you for letting me know that, Grace. We hired a publicist, a friend of mine, at GrabBag to help us sort of promote, obviously. And I've been saying that in the interviews, like what's so fulfilling about this podcast is when I get feedback from people, whether or not you've written in, like just hearing from people saying like, hey, you said a thing that really helped me, get through a thing or help me feel better or help me see things in a different way. In some ways, this is, I think, more for me than it is for all of you. Thank you. I'm going to read through the comments. Chris says, finding friends as an adult is hard. And as a kid, yeah. Ashley says, I just find online friends. I mean, honestly, like most of the friends I have now are from this, or from my podcasts and the online community of my podcasts. Barry says, yeah, focusing on the outcome is usually going to keep you disappointed. Yeah. And also like that way too, it's like you don't have any control over the outcome. And again, like you might miss the beauty of the outcome because you wanted it to be something else. Missing the trees because you're too busy looking for the forest. Yeah. Tanner says we would go to Ground Round because kids were weighed and that's how much you paid for their meal. Are you fucking kidding me, Tanner? Oh man. I'm sorry, Tanner. Just so many generations of broken parents just passing on their brokenness to their kids. Oh, Lord. Ooh. Chris says, Slow Burn, The Rise of Fox News is a great podcast on the topic of how did we get here. Yeah. Capitalism is all about seeing what we don't have because, otherwise how are we going to buy shit, Gratitude and recognizing what we do have is a revolutionary act, yeah. Sometimes I do feel hopeful, that like, very occasionally I have hope. that, this younger generation that's actually dealing with their trauma will fix everything. I just hope it's not too late. That's okay, Tanner. You don't have to be sorry. Oh, it's a it's a gift. Oh, this is so cool. I saw this pattern online and decided that you each needed one. From Sesha. Sorry for my serial killer handwriting. Oh my god, everybody. It's a needle point. It says, I just baked you some shut the fuck up cakes. Oh, that's really good. I love this. I gotta get this framed. Thank you so much. Wow. Okay, let's see. All right, I've got 3 emails. I'm probably not gonna read all of them. Ooh, this one's long. Okay, here we go. By the way, when I say like, ooh, this one's long, like don't, I don't want you to be like, oh no, I wrote it too long. It's fine. Dear Daisy, I previously wanted to write to you but chickened out and left the message in my drafts. After reading through my thoughts and worries from 6 months ago, I'm feeling especially downtrodden as most of the worries I had 6 months ago have not gone away, or in some cases have worsened. A bit about me to begin with. I'm 27 years old, Irish, and I'm living with my boyfriend of 4 years. I've been a listener of yours for years across multiple platforms, and honestly, Grab Bag Collab has been somewhat of an escape for me in the past few months. To the crux of the issue, my boyfriend and I have truly been served a shit draw in life and have been collecting health conditions like Pokemon. Starting with me first, I have ulcerative colitis, a chronic illness that affects your bowels and immune system, and I'm recovering from an eating disorder and have recently been diagnosed with PCOS. My partner, without sharing too much info for the sake of their own privacy, has suffered from severe mental illness since childhood and in the past year has spent 3 months in hospital and is currently unable to work. The sheer amount of stress his mental illness has put him in is having a physical effect, which has taken away one of his main forms of de-stressing, the gym. All of this to say, for the past year, I have been trying my damnedest to keep everything going. Our income has been slashed significantly with my partner being unable to work, which is not made easier by the many medical bills. Luckily, the insurance is covering most of the large expenses, but we still probably spend approximately a quarter of my wages on medical costs each month. I have to confront my partner's family multiple times for their combative attitude towards him, as all they seem to care about is when he will be returning to work. My own family all live abroad, and I probably only see them in person 2 or 3 times a year. I haven't seen my brother in person since 2022, while also watching my partner deal with so much grief from his own mind. He is truly the bravest, strongest person I know, so it kills me that he can't see that in himself. I feel like I am barely keeping my head above water, and each time I think things are going to get easier, something else comes out of the woodwork. Which leads me to the latest development. About a month ago, things felt like they were on the up. After a long emotional talk with my partner one weekend, we had a new plan in place on how to tackle the next stage of his healing. I roped him into doing home workouts with me, which allowed him to build back up some strength, while also getting moving. He started going to the gym again and making plans for moving forward. Things were looking great, and we were planning something fun to do for my birthday at the end of August, so overall things were looking up. But then I got food poisoning. And let me tell you, food poisoning with UC is no joke. I was bedridden for 10 days, barely able to hold down liquids. I started vomiting blood at one point and had retched so much I ended up pulling pretty much every muscle in my back, leaving me with what felt like 10 out of 10 period cramps for about a week straight after that. I then had a shit meeting with my manager when I went back to work, almost accusing me in the HR way of lying about being ill. Even though I literally felt like I was going to die a few days earlier. I also ended up crying/hyperventilating on that call, and God, I know I shouldn't feel embarrassed, but I feel so humiliated for letting him see me that way. I pride myself in my work, and I know I'm good at my job, but I hate that because I'm an emotional person who cries on occasion, my manager likely sees me as weaker now. Almost a month on, and I'm still having issues with my breathing and some pains in my back. But hey, at least I lost some weight. That's right, the eating disorder thoughts came back strong when I started to notice just how loose my once snug jeans suddenly were. I'm just so sick of everything. I feel so overwhelmed by life and the challenges I'm currently facing. I know that there are others who are struggling with larger issues than I am, yet part of me still feels resentful for the amount of pressures that are on my shoulders. I generally try to stay positive, focus on what's gone right this past year, but honestly, there's not much. The only thing I can truly say has gone right is the love and connection I feel with my partner. Fucking hell, if it wasn't for him, I have no idea where I'd be. Because of distance and familial issues, we don't have a strong support network that I can turn to. I'm also absolutely crap at making friends, so it's not like I have someone I can vent to. So I guess that's what I'm doing here. Venting. I'm not sure there's much advice that can be given here. I know logically that this time will pass, that we will get through this to see the other side. I'm just sick of the false starts, and I don't know how to drum up the motivation and confidence to get back at it again. So I guess that's my story as best as I can describe it. If this ever makes it to your desk, I just want you to know that your kindness and humor has been a comfort blanket over the past few months and will hopefully see me through the next few. I'll leave you with a bit of Irish. I can't read that. I can't say Sláinte BXX. I'm going to put that in Google Translate. Oh, I already have Google Translate open. Isn't that funny? Thank you very much. Cheers. Here, let's hear it.
Word is agat. Pronounced a-gut. Put it all together now. Garev Mahagat. Garev Mahagat.
Garev Mahagat. Sláinte. Thank you for the Irish. Oh, B. You know, it's ironic. I'm reading this and I'm hearing what I was saying in the last letter, right? Like, look at the positive, which is not what I mean, obviously. I don't mean like, look at the positive. I just mean, you know, in that context, right? Like we forget about the positive things that are happening. And sometimes it truly, absolutely does feel like there's nothing fucking positive happening. And sometimes that's the case, you know? And I have to commend you for your strength. Look, I think that we overvalue strength as like a characteristic or a whatever, but it's like we've now overhyped resilience to the point where we completely devalue softness and vulnerability. And so I don't mean to be like, you know, yeah, you're strong, but it is good to have strength. And I commend you for your strength. You know, just in saying that, like, you know, you're going to get through this to see the other side is a huge deal. No, Noodle. No, Noodle. You're being rude. Honestly. You know what that tells me is like somehow you don't suffer from like chemical depression, because I feel like somebody with like myself with chemical depression, like in the state that you are now, would feel like I don't remember a time that it's ever been good. I don't think it'll ever be good again. And so the fact that you know that there is an other side of this is remarkable, and just, you know, try to hold on to that. And it's funny too, because before you said that you forced your partner to do, you know, some exercises with you, I was thinking like they should go for a walk. And then I was thinking about how annoying it is when you're depressed, when somebody, you know, and somebody says you should go for a walk. But like in this case, that is one piece of it, right? Like the physical movement was a big component for him. So doing something physical is super important. And I commend you also for sort of making him do that. I got to do it too, honestly. You know, most of life is pushing the rock up the hill. I find myself wondering why you two don't just move to Ireland, honestly. I mean, I know that's a massive expense and you can't just like pick up and move to Ireland, but I don't know. I feel like if I had citizenship anywhere else, I would be there. Well, with the exception of anywhere in the Middle East at this point, or Russia, or Ukraine, or Congo. Anyway, I don't know if that's something you could consider. I'm sure it's something you've already thought about. And perhaps there's some books that you might direct his family to, you know, that explain mental health and mental illness and depression, and how the absolute last thing you need to do to somebody in that position is to be like, yeah, but when are you going to go back to work? I hate the fact that like we feel like we need a paper trail, you know, when we're not well, to like prove to people that we're not well. And I'm sorry that you went through that with your HR person. And of course you felt humiliated. Like, nobody wants to do that, you know? And especially in the middle of being sort of accused of making it up, right? To then have that sort of reaction, I'm sure in your mind, you were like, well, this isn't helping, right? Like, now he thinks I'm just over dramatic and I'm blowing the whole thing out of proportion. And I also commend your compassion and your understanding and empathy for your partner. What is PCOS? Can somebody in the chat tell me? Polycystic ovarian syndrome. Oh, that doesn't sound pleasant. Yeah, I was just saying to Ashley and Barry the other day that I operate on a lower frequency, and I always have, and I'm tired. And when I have a lot of stress, I tend to get more tired. You know, I haven't been diagnosed with anything because nobody knows. Everyone just sort of ends up shrugging. The last doctor I saw for this was like, I'm not going to rest until we figure it out. And then eventually she was like, I don't know, you're just tired. You know, and maybe someday they'll figure out an actual thing, right? And be like, oh, you have blah, 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 or, you know, your genes make it so whatever. I don't think I have narcolepsy, Ashley, because I don't fall asleep mid-sentence. I don't fall asleep randomly, but I may have hyposomnia. Hypersomnia? Yeah, and it might be chronic fatigue syndrome, which, similar to menopause and perimenopause, just doesn't have a lot of research behind it, mostly just because people are like, don't be tired. Or I don't know, they feel like people who are tired just like, oh, well, too bad for you. I guess you're not going to have success. But anyway, I was saying that, you know, they were like, I'm sure so-and-so will understand if you have to, you know, rest. And I said, I don't think anybody understands how actually tired I am. I don't think anyone actually understands it. I fear most people think I'm faking it, you know, that most people think like I'm just sort of lazy, or if I tried harder, or if I ate more greens, or if I went to the gym more, or exercised more, drank more water, or fucking smiled more, I'd be less tired. And then it makes me think like, am I faking it? You know, like, am I just being lazy? You know, Ashley was saying like basically imposter syndrome with chronic illness is a real thing. Like, especially one that, you know, you can't see, right? Yeah, the smiling is definitely the issue, Erica. I just smiled more. It's hard to be alive right now, you know? It's hard. But I see you. This is not really going off topic, but J.D. Vance, everything comes back to politics because everything's political. You know, J.D. Vance recently said that thing about like grandparents should just do the childcare, right? So that parents can work or whatever. And everyone was up in arms about it. And the ironic thing is that he's not wrong. Like, yes, that is how it should be. Like, we should live in a society in which there are people tasked with helping raise the children, you know? But that's not the society we live in because of capitalism. So like for him to sit there and be like, well, just the grandparents should do it. It's like, okay, well then how do they make money? Because nobody can live like that. And you want to cut Social Security? Like how make that make sense in my head, you know? And I think about, you know, smaller communities where when somebody falls, there's someone there to lift them up, you know, and like ants, you know, if an ant is injured, like the other ants just fill in and take over. There's no negotiation. There's no discussion. It's just, that's what you do. And I think, you know, we're led to believe that like, if that's how society was, then everyone would not work. You know, everyone would be like, oh, I don't feel well, I can't work. But I don't think that's the case. I think that in an equitable society, people want to produce because it helps everybody, but that's not where we live. And it's not like Ireland is, you know, any different in terms of capitalism. But every time I talk to somebody from like Australia or New Zealand and they're like, well, I just had to leave because there's only so far you can, like, so high you can rise. I'm like, great. What's the problem? You know? All right, I'm going to read through the comments. I hope that I have been at all helpful directly in this letter. And also the eating disorder thing. I don't have an eating disorder. I have, some disordered thinking around eating because I live in America and because I was an actor for so many years and I lived in Hollywood. And I get that, I get that feeling of like, ooh, look, my clothes are better. My clothes fit better now. If only I were sick more often, I get it. And I know that like my trouble with eating in the morning probably has to do with underlying weight issues, self-image issues. All right, let me see. Ashley says, hey, team poop problems. Woohoo. Tanner says you sound like his sister-in-law, but she isn't from Ireland. Barry asks if the writer is 27. I don't know why. End of August, eating disorder, autoimmune, bowel disorder. Is this person younger me? Anger crying too? OMG, it's me. Tanner says this person is incredibly strong. Yeah. Ashley says, sometimes you don't need to drum anything up. Sometimes you just need to tuck in your wings and survive until you're out of this shitstorm. Yeah, everyone's agreeing that you sound very strong. Sonia says, to me, it sounds like the writer is incredibly strong. All those hardships and they're still going. Ashley says, sometimes it feels like a shitstorm because your body is truly making a shitstorm. Ha 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 ha. I have Crohn's. I'm not just an asshole. She says, I am an asshole too. When you have an invisible illness, it gets insane, like insane. Right now, I'm bordering on a flare and people literally gaslight me about it because I look fine. Yeah. Barry says one of Ashton's friends is narcoleptic and it's less about falling asleep at random times than it is about not getting enough REM sleep. But have you tried smiling more? And Ashley says find a chronic/invisible illness community that understands and can let you vent without judgment. Yeah. Oh, Barry says she thinks that you said you were 27, the beginning of the letter, and if so, you should look up a Saturn return. I guess you're in your Saturn return era? Okay. Why don't I look that up with the beauty of the internet? A Saturn return is an astrological event that happens when Saturn returns to the same position in the sky that it was when someone was born. This event usually occurs every 27 to 29.5 years, and the transit lasts about 2.5 years. Facing new challenges and responsibilities, it can be a time of deep reflection, turmoil, and self-doubt. It says you may need to step out of your comfort zone to find purpose. I don't know that you need to do that right now. Sounds like right now you need as much comfort as you can get, and probably stepping out of your comfort zone is not what you need to do. Erica says, I have 2 invisible illnesses. When I was younger, my family and friends would make fun of me. I was always told that I was being dramatic and wanted excuses for not doing something I didn't want to do. Now that they know and understand what I have, they feel like assholes for mocking me. Yes. I know many of us have experienced that. And it goes back to that thing we were talking about last time about the woman who got, the endometriosis diagnosis and was so grateful that anybody had believed her enough to find it. All right. It may be time to start on a new deck. Oh, I don't think we've had... Ooh, this is a good one. This is Kuan Yin, and she is the goddess of compassion. She looks to be of Asian descent. She's wearing a purple stone or something on her forehead. She's wearing a white sort of headdress and thing, and she's holding some sort of white flower. Kuan Yin. I still don't know the order in which the alphabet goes. All right. Kuan Yin is the goddess of compassion. I made the vow and kept my word. I reached enlightenment, but rather than pass over to the state of eternal bliss, I retained human form till all beings attain enlightenment. Keeping human form enabled me to know more deeply the pain others experience. Because of my deep feelings, because of my understanding of misery and suffering, because of my decision, I am called the compassionate one, she whose name alleviates all suffering. But wouldn't you prefer to wait, feeling what others feel, suffering what others suffer, knowing their pain is your own, wait till the end of all suffering and pain, till all beings attain enlightenment? For me, there was no other choice. Mythology. Kuan Yin, or she who hears the weeping world, is the Chinese Buddhist bodhisattva of compassion. She lives on her island paradise of Putoshan, where she is said to grant every prayer she hears. She is so powerful that even the mention of her name will ease suffering and hardship. Choosing to remain in this world after having attained enlightenment, Kuan Yin has vowed to retain human form until all beings attain enlightenment. In Japan, she is known as Kwanan. Meaning of the card. Kuan Yin appears mercifully in your life to tell you it is time to nurture wholeness with compassion. Compassion for others, compassion for your loved ones, compassion for yourself. Do you find yourself feeling irritated or apathetic to the suffering of others? What keeps you from your compassion? Do you allow yourself space and ease when you are less than your idea of perfect? Do you find yourself wanting to hurt others because you have been hurt? Do you fear opening your heart to the plight of others because it will hurt you? Compassion is the ability to listen deeply and allow others and yourself the space to go through what needs to be gone through and to feel what needs to be felt. Kuan Yin says that the way to alleviate your suffering is to develop compassion for yourself. From that compassionate place within, you can manifest compassion without. I mean, yeah. I don't even know how to elaborate on that, I would say for both letter writers, honestly, like the compassion that you've both shown yourselves is remarkable and commendable and beautiful. To give yourselves the space to be where you are, and know sort of that you can't be anywhere else right now, that this is where you are, and to have compassion for your experience and for yourself, for what you're going through. Whether that's like having compassion for yourself that like you don't seem to have the kinds of friendships that you see other people having, and then understanding that, you are having the friendships that you're having and how meaningful that is and how important it is. And obviously, for B, the amount of compassion that you've shown your partner is really beautiful and something to, I think, feel very proud of. And the amount of compassion you've shown yourself is beautiful. And this, I think, card should serve as just a reminder that, like, sometimes that's all we can do, right? Is just have compassion for ourselves and for others and, not necessarily like know what the answer is or know how to fix it. But as Ashley says, to like just tuck in your wings and heal, give yourself time to heal and get through it. And, and I don't mean to be like flip or dismiss, like the money thing. I don't know how to get around it. All we can do is just cling to each other as tight as we can. Barry says we're just meat sacks running on weird electrical energy on a rock hurling through space. Yeah. I just was listening to an older episode of This American Life, and these two actors, including this Irish woman, Maeve something, I can't remember her last name. And it was a short story about these aliens who come down to Earth, and one of them's trying to explain to the other that she's like, they're all made of meat. And he's like, meat? Yeah. It's like, but how do they talk? And she's like, they talk with their meat. They flap their meat together. And it makes sounds. He's like, but how do they think? They think with their meat. Thinking meat. And then basically at the end of the story, they're like, you know what? Let's leave that one alone. Let's just pretend we never found it. Don't put it on the list. Let's move on. It's really true. It's so weird when you think about it. It's so weird. Oh. I'll try to find the name of that story so you can listen to it. This American Life has launched like a paywall version because we're all suffering right now. We're all suffering. Podcasters have taken this big hit because of the way they're changing like the algorithm and the downloads. And I was annoyed, but I've been listening to that show for over 20 years. And I was like, you know what? I should just pay them for the content. And I worry that I'm going to have to do that with Strange at some point. But not today, Satan. For now, I'm going to go eat. Not today, Bob. I can't believe I didn't say that. I'm going to go eat some food. I'm going to have compassion for myself and nourish my meat sack that encompasses me, that I am. I'm going to go nourish that meat, probably with some meat. And then I'm going to come back to work in 40 minutes. I feel a little bit like crying, but that's okay. That's all right. You know, I feel like I've gone through a little bit of a catharsis. They cry with their meat. What? How does meat cry? Anyway, Sasha, thank you so much. Sasha, thank you so much for my for my needlepoint. I'm going to get it framed. Grace, thank you so much for that beautiful card. And B, thank you for that letter. I'm so grateful for all of you. Okay, I love you all, and I'll see you on the flippity flop. For shizzle! Oh my god, that's it. I no longer have compassion for myself. Dear Daisy is a production of Grab Bag Collab and is brought to you by the generous patronage of our members. Amanda Rossman is my editor. Amanda and Amber Hunt are my partners in crime. Music was composed and performed by Kurt Bloom. If you have an idea for a limited series podcast that you'd like to talk to Grab Bag about, email us at grabbagcollab@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram at grabbagcollab. Follow me at Dear Daisy Pod and Daisy Eagan. You can send me an anonymous email via Google Docs. The link is on our website, Patreon page, and social media. Remember that actual letters sent through the mail take priority, and I will send you something back as soon as I get my shit together, so write to me old-fashioned like at P.O. Box 10221, Cranston, Rhode Island 02910. Help us out by spreading the word about our podcasts, and remember to drink water, rest, and be kind.